silence your cell phone. Silence your cell phone. Anybody doing it? Did anybody forget? No? Okay. Well, we are so glad that you're here with us tonight. Glad you're tuning in on YouTube and on Facebook. What a blessing that is. Praise the Lord. There's more lights. And we're getting ready. I think is weather supposed to change? Anybody hear about that? Only 53, maybe 54 notices on my phone that the weather's changing. We will keep you posted about what's going on with the weather. And I know we have a practice that is scheduled for the 23rd. We're going to kind of take it day by day. Right now, our speaking parts, if we don't have that practice, it's going to put us in a little bit of a crunch with the cantata. We're just not really sure what we're going to do, so be patient with us. We want to do everything we planned on doing, but we will be kind of in a holding pattern, so keep up on your band app. Somebody said they needed a new invite to band. Who was that? Now, I approved you. Yeah, you were sitting there and I got you approved. Anybody else any members need a band? Okay. You need one? Yeah, I'd like one. I'll send you. Did you get a smartphone? I've had one for a while, just haven't been smart enough to get it. You'd think that smartphone be able to do itself. All right. Well, Brother Carmen's going to preach for us tonight, and he's got some slides ready. Sam's going to lead us in some songs, and then after that, I'll come up and we'll do some prayer requests like we normally do.
Please stand with me this evening and open your hymnals. I was told to keep it in the 400s of the page numbers so we could sing some Christmas songs. So I figured we'd start off at 436, The Star-Spangled Banner. Christmas Day, the old familiar carols play, and while we speak the words we of peace on earth, goodwill to men. I thought how as the day had come, the belfries of all Christendom and rolled along the broken song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And in despair I held my head, there is no peace on earth, I said, for pain song and marks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. They peal the bells more loud and clean. God is not dead, nor does he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men. Still ringing, singing on its way, the world revolved from night to day. A voice, a chime, a chant sublime of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Was that the end? I'm sorry. Turn your hymnals now to hymn number 424. Hymn number 424, O Come All You Faithful. I guess an extra verse we can put back. Well, we'll go here. You may be seated. I'm not used to all of you changing the rules while I'm gone. I'm used to everybody stands.
And here are tonight's announcements. The Christmas card boxes have been placed in the foyer. Please feel free to use these to pass your Christmas wishes along to your Calvary family. The annual business meeting and election of officers are completed. A list of offices and holders will be placed in the single long hallway. A special thank you to the junior and primary class teachers for the wonderful activity they hosted. And thank you to all those who attend Calvary Christian School's presentation of Biblical Christmas Carol. Your attendance was a great blessing to the staff and the students. The new directories have been printed. Please be sure to pick up your copy in the foyer of the church. We are limiting the copies printed in case of needed changes. And also, please continue to check the band app for different prayer requests and the calendar and different announcements. As you see, we are moving well down our list of Christmas activities listed in the bulletin. We only have about, it looks like 2 left. So we only have 2 activities left. We have this Sunday coming up with the cantata, and as well as Sunday evening with the candlelight service. Both of those you will not want to miss. A lot of hard work and effort is put into both of those, so please be here if you are able to. And other than that, that is the announcements for tonight. So why don't you come on up and lead one more song for us.
And I still think you stand for the third song, is that right? All right, stand with me one more time this evening. Lift up your voices as we sing out on all 4 verses of hymn number 431. Singing out on all 4 verses of hymn number 431, Silent Night.
I am here. But if you would this evening, take your Bibles and please, real quick, just turn them to Romans chapter 7. Romans chapter 7. Just want to kind of briefly touch on what I preached about this last Sunday. Romans chapter 7. In verse 13 it says, was then that which is good made death unto me? God forbid, but sin that it might appear sin. Working death in me by that which is good, that sin by the commandment might become exceeding sinful. So this last Sunday, I preached the message, make sin exceeding sinful. And so this will be somewhat of a continuation or a little kind of piece of it. As I studied along, as I said last Sunday, there was more and more that I was finding, and so I wanted to do a little bit of a study on it tonight. But as Americans, I feel like we have kind of lost a little bit of this in the fact of making sin exceedingly sinful. We've become more tolerant than is necessary. We've become to the point where sin is rampant all around America, and we are kind of more laid back than what we used to be. And that's getting to a dangerous position. So tonight, see the title. It's not going to work. It's not going to work here either. There it goes. There we go. All right, so the effects of television in the lives of Americans is the title of tonight's lesson. I told you that I was going to talk to you about something tonight that has changed the course of America and the kind of the course of the world. And this is one of those things. And as I did more studying, I kept finding more and more articles about just the way that television has affected and the things that are put on television have affected the lives of everybody in the world. But tonight we're going to mainly focus on America. And so I would like to give you a couple scripture references first. 1 Thessalonians 5:22. It tells us to abstain from all appearance of evil. Philippians 4:8 says, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. And then in Psalm 101, verse 3, it says, I will set no wicked thing before mine eyes. I hate the work of them that turn aside. It shall not cleave to me. So that verse, I love that verse. It's just one of those things that it shows that it is a conscious decision. Right. It has always been a conscious decision to not sin, and it is a conscious decision to not set something in front of your eyes. A preacher told me, he said, Zach, that sometimes you will see things, but the problem is when you start looking at things. Sometimes you can't control what the world puts on a billboard or puts on a TV screen. You can't control seeing it. But that second time that you start looking at it is where the problem is. And so television has been very, very good at this. It has been very good at drawing you in. It has been very good at getting you to look at things even though you may honestly have no desire at the time to fall into that sin or have no desire to do that. But television has been very good at being entertaining. And that's what, in ancient Rome, they had this thing called bread and circus. Essentially, if you keep the people entertained and keep them fed, civilization will not overthrow. And so television has become very good at this, at the fact of entertainment. They've become very good at keeping you entertained, and we have to be careful what we put before our eyes as Christians. So tonight, we're going to look at a world of firsts as kind of the first point here, a world of firsts. So the first television was demonstrated on January 26th, 1926. Shortly thereafter, in 1927, was the first television broadcast. And the first televisions, if you look it up, they were not cheap. Okay, the initial price that you see will reveal that it looks cheap. They were mass-produced, I believe it was in 1928. But they were around $400 to $600 in 1928, which would be around $4,000 to $6,000 in today's money. So at that period of time, they were not readily available. They were not something that every household would have by any stretch of the imagination. And so they were not exactly very common. Once the television started becoming a little more popular, more and more programs started appearing. This was an event that would not only change America, but would also change the world. The world and the devil are not ignorant. They know exactly how to use this tool to their advantage. The world and the devil, they know what to put on there. They know what looks appealing to the eyes. They know what to put before you that will entice you. They're not ignorant to this fact. Television by itself is not a bad thing. It is like a blank piece of paper. It is what you put on it. Okay, I told you that before with cell phones. They can be used as a tool. You know, you can use television to broadcast the gospel message of Christ. You can use television to share the gospel of Christ. You can use television for all sorts of different things, but unfortunately, that's not really the way that it's used. And so we're going to look at that tonight. Unfortunately, television has been turned into a lot of wickedness and has desensitized Christians all around the world, especially in the United States of America. Television programs and commercials have been discussed as major causes for materialism in America, which makes sense. You think about it, you have all these commercials, what are they trying to get you to do? They're trying to get you to buy their product. And so, materialism, I looked up the definition just to see what would pop up. Materialism is a tendency to consider material possessions and physical comfort as more important than spiritual values. And that's where we're at as Americans a lot of times, is we are very materialistic. We want the nicest thing. I'm just as guilty as the next person sometimes when it comes to, I want the next best thing. You know, I want the nicest thing. I want it to be nice. I want it to be fast. But the problem is, it's okay to want those things. It's okay to desire those things. But the problem is we replace it and we make that our top priority. When God is supposed to be our top priority. When serving the Lord is supposed to be our top priority. And so as Americans, it's become very easy to fall into this trap, especially because of television. Not only because of television. Television is just the one source that I'm kind of focusing on tonight. But, I mean, there was radio, there's video games, there's cell phones, there's all sorts of things that are different sources for the devil to use. And we have to be careful what we allow ourselves to hear, what we allow ourselves to see, what we allow ourselves to do. But let's take a look real quick about what the Bible has to say about materialism. Colossians 3:2 states, set your affection on things above, not on things on the earth. And then if we look at Matthew 6:19 through 21, it tells us, lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. So this is the danger of materialism in the life of a Christian. When we allow material things to become what we truly desire, then those things matter more to us than what God matters to us. Because where our treasure is, there will our heart be also. I remember an illustration. I was a child. I remember the preacher called. It was a guest preacher. I don't remember who it was, but asked my dad to come up and give him his wallet. And so the preacher took his wallet and turned around. He asked a child to come up, and he said, "Here, I want you." He wrapped a rubber band around it. He said, "I want you to go throw this in the street." And so the child ran to the back of the auditorium and threw the wallet out into the middle of the street. Then the preacher just kept on preaching like nothing had happened. Kept on going. And then eventually he asked my dad, he got to the point, he said, "So where's your heart at right now?" My dad responded with, "Well, on the street." So, and, I mean, when you really think about it, it is a dangerous thing, okay? You have your driver's license, you have credit cards, you have debit cards, you have cash, you have all gift cards, all these things that could possibly be in your wallet. And it's sitting out in the middle of the road right now for anybody to grab. And I'm talking this, I don't know exactly how long it was out there, but in my mind as a child, it was forever. But it was probably more like 10 minutes, maybe, if that. And so the preacher looked at it and said, "This is what this verse is talking about. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Some of your treasure is sitting out on the road right now." And then he said, "But I didn't really do that." He pulled out a second wallet, and it was actually my dad's wallet. He had a spare wallet that he kept in his back pocket for that illustration. So, but it was a good illustration. It really was. If somebody were to take your wallet and throw it out here on 59, where would your heart be? What would you be thinking about? Would you be thinking about the message right now? Or would you be thinking about where your wallet's at? It's a good illustration. And so, according to the Bible, we are not to be materialistic. This does not mean that it is wrong to have things, rather that it is wrong to put material possessions in a higher place of importance than God. And it's easy to do that. Okay, as I said, television's made this very easy. Commercials make things very enticing. They lift things up. They make things that you don't even really need look really nice. Okay, it's just the way it is. They become really good at marketing what they are trying to sell you. And so we must understand this and be careful what we put before our eyes and before our children and family as well. So now we're going to look at the negative effects of television. As television became more popular, the more wickedness we could see getting added to it. We already looked at materialism, but there's so much more on television that is wicked. The following are some of the wicked things on television. You have homosexuality, alcohol, tobacco, drugs, immoral living, broken homes, immodesty, worldly viewpoints of creation, and a constant theme of follow your heart. And you can see that theme even on children's TV shows, and we'll look at the significance of that here in a little bit. But old preachers used to call the television a sin box. I'm not going to make a blanket statement and say that all television is bad, because there are some truly educational programs that you can watch and different things like that. But it would be true that there's a lot more wicked on there than there is good. Right. And so that's where we're at right now. We're at the point of television. Sometimes, especially if you have cable, you're kind of at the whims of whatever they felt like putting on there today. And so, we will now take a look into how America was affected by alcohol on television. And the reason I'm looking at this is because there was a lot of research done that was not by necessarily a Baptist preacher or by other preachers, but worldly research that was done about how alcohol had affected the lives of Americans just by advertising on television. And so surely if alcohol has affected Americans, then surely it's all these other points that I mentioned before affect the lives of Americans as well. So I could not find where alcohol first began on television, but what I did find is that its first several appearances were made into a joke of some kind. You see that the alcoholics portrayed were a type of comedian almost. They were funny, they were trying to get you to laugh at them and laugh at the things that they had done. And that's not a mistake. That's not a mistake that they made on their part. That's not, well, alcoholics are funny. No, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get you to accept what they're doing. And so the very first step of that, when they make these characters, they're trying to make you laugh. If they can get you to continue laughing at the same thing over and over, you will start to justify it in your mind. One of the most common phrases I've heard about this would be, I do not agree with their lifestyle, but they are funny. So if you don't agree with their lifestyle, why are you watching it? And so, once you justify it, you will make it acceptable. And once it is acceptable, you will stop fighting against it. There is always some form of progression with sin in the life of a Christian when it's not properly handled. This is, when you allow things to be set before your eyes, the world, as I said, they will try to make it a joke at first. A lot of these wicked things that they put out on television, it started with somebody funny. And then they just kept working its way up until where we are at today, where you can't turn a TV on without some sort of homosexuality on there, or alcohol, or drugs, or broken. You can't turn the TV on without it. And it's because way back when it first started, they started introducing it. And they didn't put it all over the TV at first, surely not, because as I researched more and more, there were times that Hollywood would even not hire certain actors because of their stand on how they live. But now we're at today where it's promoted. It's a wonderful thing if they're on television. They ought to be on television. If they're not on television, it's an injustice to them. And so what happened? We became tolerant. Somewhere along the way, we lost our fire against sin and against the things of the devil. We have gone from a place of alcoholics pictured as comedians to now where it is almost constantly promoted. Here are some facts that I found about the effects of alcohol on television. 30% of all food or beverage items depicted on television is alcohol, according to a study by the University of Auckland. Once again, as I said, this These are studies from different universities and different worldly viewpoints. This is not even a Christian's viewpoint. This is what the world has to say about alcohol on television. And so the top 5 depictions of alcohol on television are the following. Number 1 is sports. Shocker. Number 2 is comedy. Once again, still trying to get you to laugh at it. Number 3, animated. Number 4, reality. Number 5, drama. This list of 5 things are probably the 5 most common types of TV shows and movies to watch. So they're not foolish about this. They know exactly where to put it. They know exactly what type of show to put it on. They know exactly how to put it before your face to get you to start thinking about it. The advertisement and promotion of alcohol on television have affected countless people, but has primarily affected the younger generation. Here's a quote directly from the website there. It says, alcohol depictions in programs and advertisements has been shown to increase social acceptance of alcohol use, cue cravings for particular alcohol brands, and even foster continued or initial use. So they did all sorts of studies. I'm not going to get into what the studies were, not trying to glorify what they did, but the point is that they even saw that these advertisements are promoting people to start using it or to use more of it. This is coming from a completely secular viewpoint. This was not a study done by another Baptist preacher. This is how the world also use alcohol when it is studied. Adolescents average watching approximately 2 hours of television per day. And that's adolescents, they kind of group that as ages 15 to 17. Studies have been completed that have directly linked television advertisement of alcohol and underage drinking. It has been proven that these advertisements causes those that already drink to drink more, and those that do not to start with this horrible habit. It is a real problem in America because television is not the only source, but rather one of many sources that children are introduced into this wicked lifestyle. All right, it's not something uncommon to see in video games. It's not something uncommon to see pop up on social media. It's not something uncommon to hear about on the radio. It's all over the place. Why? Because they're trying to get you to fall into it. The world is trying to get you to fall into their trap, trying to get you to fall into sin. This is what the devil does. He's been doing it a long time. So, excessive drinking. While movies, television shows, and video games picture this as funny, it is a major issue. Studies have shown that over 140,000 deaths occur annually in the United States alone due to excessive drinking. That is approximately 380 deaths per day due to alcohol. It's a very large number. Just out of curiosity, I looked up how much, because what the media will promote is gun violence, right? The media will always promote gun violence, about how we need to get rid of guns and do this, blah, blah, blah. Gun violence is about 1/3 of that amount. But yet we still have alcohol everywhere. One thing that I never understood is, why do we have it at gas stations? They tell you don't drink and drive, and then we're going to sell it at a gas station. It just doesn't make sense to me. All right? But seriously, look, the world has put it everywhere. Easy access. All right? It's not hard to find. It is very easy to find, as a matter of fact. And so, as well, on a different study, also 28% of all traffic fatalities are due to driving under the influence of alcohol. That is over 10,000 deaths a year, just for traffic. Furthermore, excessive drinking has shortened the lives of those that it has consumed by an average of 26 years. It has also been extremely costly. In 2010, it cost our nation $249 billion. And the reason that it's 2010 is because that's the most recent that I can find that was updated. 12 years ago that they updated alcohol. Why would they not update it? Well, because they're making money from it as well. They're making money from people drinking. They're making money from the taxes off of alcohol. They're making money from all these different things going on in the world. And so they're not going to stop it. And they're certainly not going to update it. So you keep looking and saying, oh my goodness, it's costing so much. There's so much death. No, they're not going to do that. Because it's their money maker. It's their God. And so here's some verses on alcohol. Ephesians 5:18, be not drunk with wine wherein is excess, but be filled with the Spirit. Sorry. Ephesians 5:19 through 21, it says, now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. Now, we see, once again, a whole list of things right there. We see a list of all sorts of different things about just all sorts of different sins. You know, I talked about this last Sunday. You know, we would probably put, you know, murders, we would say that's probably worse than, you know, envying after something. Or that would be worse than wrath. Or, you know, different things. We would probably place that in our own minds. But here's the thing, God doesn't look at it that way. All sin to God is egregious. All sin to God is extremely wicked. And so there is no difference there. You know, we would say, it's hard for the human mind to understand that because we're thinking, okay, well, lying's not that big of a deal. So, you know, a little white lie is not that big of a deal. But all sin to God is extreme. And so that's why when we see in the Bible, oftentimes we have a list like this, and lying would be listed in there. We have drunkenness, murders, envyings, heresies, all sorts of different things. And it's all grouped together. Why? Because God views it all just as egregiously as anything else. And so we have to be careful. We have to be careful what we put before our eyes. In Proverbs 20, verse 1, it says, wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging. It's whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. Isaiah 5:20 through 24 says, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Sounds a lot like America today. Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. Woe unto them that are mighty to drink wine, and men of strength to mingle strong drink. Sounds a whole lot like America today, calling evil good and good evil. You say churches look down upon by a lot of Americans because they think that, you know, we're judging them. Well, in all reality, I'm not going to judge you, but God will. And I'm certainly not going to associate with what you do. Nor am I going to tolerate, nor am I going to be friends, nor be close to you. It's just not going to happen. And so, this year, in Proverbs 23:20 and 21, it says, be not among winebibbers, among riotous eaters of flesh, for the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty, and drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags. So we see, the Bible has a whole lot to say about drinking and just all sorts of different things on different sin. But, as I said, tonight we're just focusing mainly on alcohol. So, in somewhat of a conclusion here, this was merely one aspect of the evil that appears on television. We would be foolish to think that television would only affect this area and not any other area. I listed a whole bunch before, right at the beginning, a whole bunch of different things that are put on television. All right, we would be foolish to think that alcohol is the only one that's going to affect us. All right, we have to be careful with what we put before our eyes. Just this last week, I heard about a man that has fallen, a good Christian man that I looked up to, that is now drinking again. Or not again, but started drinking. So what happened? He was faithful. He was faithful to church. I worked for him for a period of time. So what happened? He just kept putting it before his eyes. He became friends with somebody that drank a lot. And just slowly and slowly started to poison him. It started to affect him. It starts to change your thinking. Well, if they do it, you know, if my friend does it, it must be okay. It's not okay. Okay? You ought to be very careful who you associate yourself with. You ought to be very careful who you hang around with, because it is dangerous. Who you are friends with will change you. You cannot be close friends with an extremely worldly person and expect to stay the same. When you have a bag full of good television, as I stated at the beginning, is a tool. It can be used for good, and it can be used for evil. Unfortunately, now it seems to have a lot more evil than good. And it seems that they are starting to fill our children's show with all this evil as well. I mean, in all reality, they've done it more subliminally in years past, but now they're starting to be open about it. You know, they start introducing these characters, and they start introducing what they are and how they live their life when it really has no business being on a children's show whatsoever. Absolutely zero. I don't know why, as Americans, we have started to allow it and think that it's okay, but it's not. Okay, you have to be careful what you allow into your own mind, but not even just your own mind, but everybody around you. The problem is here, the devil knows exactly what he's doing. Okay, he's been playing this game for a very long time. He knows precisely where to hit. The world even understands this concept of our children are in the early stages of development, and their minds are being shaped to what kind of adult they will be one day. So what are they going to do? They're going to start attacking the children's minds. They're going to start trying to change it. They're going to start changing their way of thinking. They're going to start trying to say, well, this is okay. It's acceptable, when it's really not. And the scary thing to me is that parents have allowed it. Parents have allowed it in the home. And so one day when their child has changed, and they don't understand why, it's something that I want to be extremely careful of, because I don't want one day to look at my child and say, I messed up. I allowed this into our home. And it's not something that's hard to do. It's all over every streaming platform. It's all over cable TV. It's all over everything. And so the world knows it is a lot easier to change a child's mind than it is to change an adult's mind. I mean, that's just basic. All right, you should understand that. As an adult, you kind of have your own rules, you have your own standards, you have your own way of believing, but when you're a child, you kind of believe whatever's put before your eyes at the time. And so if you're not careful what you put before your children, your grandchildren, and your family all around you, it could change them. All right, this man that I know, as I said, he's an adult. All right, he's in his 50s and started drinking. Don't understand why, don't know where it came from. I wasn't there. But I did notice that he started hanging around this one friend that started drinking. And so even adults can change. You have to be careful what you put before your eyes. I'm not saying it's impossible to change an adult, because obviously it is. It is possible. But children are much more easily affected. So we must be careful about what we allow into our home, our children, and even our own minds. Once again, Psalm 133:10, I will set no wicked thing before my eyes. I hate the work of them that turn aside, and it shall not cleave to me. That ought to be a verse that you claim. I will set no wicked thing before my eyes. I hate the word. Okay, hate's a strong word, and it's a good word for that. I hate the work of them that turn aside. It shall not cleave to me. My youth pastor told us all the time growing up, decide now what you will decide, so that when you have to decide, you don't have to decide. All right? It's a wonderful concept. I am deciding now that I am not going to do this. It will not cleave to me. I will not fall into this. Because a long time ago, I decided that I would not associate myself with those kind of people. A long time ago, I decided that I was not going to listen to the devil. I was not going to put those things before my eyes. And it is so vitally important that you make that decision. Because if you don't, you will fall one day. The devil knows what he's doing. As a roaring lion walking about seeking whom he may devour. You know what lions do? They